David. I am the host for Vintage Comic Book Show and Tell. We're really lucky today. We have a guest, Ken Spencer.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Fun. I've never done this before.
Yeah, so this is a little different. I think you've shown books around, but never on a camera, and to people you don't know who are watching. So,
right. Yeah, I've had some collectors to my house.
Right.
I know you've been there. I've shown to small groups of people parts of my collection, and I go to a lot of conventions and sometimes bring books there to show people. So yeah.
It's part of what inspired me to want to do this as an ongoing show. It really inspired my taste the second time around collecting to sit with you and some other people and look at books that I've never seen, talk about artists or genres that I've never been interested in, and really walk away overwhelmed.
Right.
Not even knowing where to stop and all that. And then turning around a few months later, doing it again, and forgetting what I've looked at. Ken's been nice enough to bring us some dandies to look at today. So these are books that I was familiar with when I was collecting before, but I don't think I ever had my sights on collecting them, mostly because they seemed unattainable. I'm going to let Ken kind of tell us what he's going to show us. It's one of my favorite artists, and I feel really fortunate, and I feel fortunate for everyone watching this that we get to go on a tour through some really special books.
So what I brought is my collection of famous funnies. It's the set that Frazetta did from issue 209 to 216. And I also brought Weird Science Fantasy 29, which was originally supposed to be the last issue of that set, but the publisher deemed it was too graphic, too violent, and they didn't use it. So it ended up becoming Weird Science Fantasy 29. So
what I knew about Famous Funnies when I was collecting before, weren't those funny animal books? Weren't they for kids?
They were for kids. I'm not that familiar with most of the series. The really early issues, I think, were newspaper reprints and things like that. And
the funny pages, from
the
cartoon
kids
section.
stuff. I know they had some war stuff, in the later part of the run. But I'm really only focused on the Frazetta issues. I didn't really know in my early collecting that Frank Frazetta even had done covers for comic books. There was no internet, there was no photojournal guide to comic books. I might have been a little bit aware of Frazetta's work because I used to buy the volumes of artwork that published a lot of the things that he did, like paintings and some comic covers, and I think a couple of these are probably in those, so I probably had seen these, just not knew what series they were from. But when I did find out about Frazetta Famous Funnies, I fell in love instantly because he's one of my favorite artists of all time. I've collected this set for probably 25 years. I've upgraded a few times on some of these issues, and I'm still looking to upgrade, if possible, on some of them. So it's been like a long labor of love collecting this set.
Some of the people watching this might not even know what we're talking about, so why don't we start to unleash them?
All right, so the first issue of the set is Famous Funnies 209. People that collect this series tend to have favorite covers of the run. I have a couple of favorite covers of this run. I like all of them. This book was initially graded. This was graded 9 for. It's from a collection called the Cosmic Airplane Collection, which is a pedigree from the 40s and 50s. Really nice copy. This was an upgrade. I used to have one that was probably about an 8.0 to 8.5, and I upgraded this one a couple of years ago. So very happy with the condition on this.
I don't know if it's the Frank Frazetta art or the condition of this book that's got me more enraptured. I just think, and I'm a Frank Frazetta. I collect Frank Frazetta from the 70s. So looking back at this older work too, and I'm more familiar with some of these covers than I am others, and this is not one that I'm necessarily familiar with. But these goons coming down the stairs are just scary, man.
And he was good with everything, but he really was exceptional, I think, with his drawing ability. This issue of the series is not one of the more difficult ones to find. There are higher graded copies of this. They don't come up for sale too often in like 9.4 or 9.6, but there are a few graded copies of that. But 9.4 pedigree with that kind of page quality is not very common on that. So the second issue, this is issue 210. This was graded a 9.4 by CGC. White pages. Now this issue is probably the most common issue of the run that I've found in my experience. And so because I've seen this issue so many times, it's I still love it. It's not a favorite of mine, but I do really like it a lot. I like all the covers a lot.
Tell me about the stories in these, Ken.
Well, you don't want to go there.
Yeah.
The artwork on the inside of these is nothing to even concern yourself with. These are all about the cover. Frazetta was really good at creating motion with his inking and line work and everything.
They only got seconds to make a decision here, so it's like a really, I got to buy that and read the story that probably doesn't exist.
It's not even in there. So this issue 211 was graded 9.2 by CGC. Another nice cover by Frank Frazetta.
Wow.
I actually picked this copy up maybe 2 years ago. This was an upgrade for me. I had about an 8.0 copy of this and managed to get this 9.2, which I was happy with.
Yeah, so this is one of the ones that stood out to me. That beast is just so scary, and this guy is like he will die trying.
Good composition, like the way Buck Rogers is protecting her with one arm, and he's got the ray gun, so I think these guys are in trouble. So
iconic science fiction.
Yeah. Next issue, 212. This one was not graded. This is actually my lowest graded copy. I would like to upgrade this. It's still very nice. It's probably about a 7.0 or 7.5. And I would not say it's the hardest issue to get. It does come up pretty frequently, especially in like lower to mid grade, even in this grade. But for some reason, I had a hard time getting one of these. I'm pretty particular about page quality and color and other factors, so sometimes I'll pass on issues that come up for sale, even if they're in nicer shape, if it doesn't have the qualities I'm looking for. This one has them. I would like to upgrade it, but it's a nice copy.
And I'm not familiar with this book, so I really love this cover. It reminds me of like Mystery in Space a little bit.
It does kind of look like that. In fact, Frazetta did work on Mystery in Space #1, so.
Awesome.
Yep, it's a good cover. Now this book right here is my favorite cover of the run. Probably the most difficult issue to get in grade. I like this cover more than almost any other comic book cover, period. Maybe it's my favorite cover. It's in my top 2 or 3 for sure.
And it's a phenomenal book. I mean, this book is just in beautiful shape.
Yeah, this one, like I said, is really hard to get. I think there's one 9.0 copy graded of this, and then it drops to an 8.5. An 8.0 of this sold recently for $20,000, which shows how desirable these books are, and in particular this issue. Extremely difficult, I'd say above 7.5. It's just extraordinarily hard to find.
It's one of my favorite covers of all time as well.
I think it's great.
Yeah, thank you. This is beautiful.
The next issue, it's my second favorite issue of the run, 214. This is also a lot of people's favorite issue of the run because of the bright red cover. The composition is again excellent. I mean, I love this issue almost as much as I like 213. And this was graded 9.2. Managed to get this copy quite a few years ago before it skyrocketed in price. And very happy with this book. There's 3 9.2s on the census right now, and I'm glad to have one of them.
It's almost a trope now, to have someone riding on a spaceship or an airplane. God, that is sick.
213 and 214 are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
215 is another awesome cover. This one I had a hard time getting a nice copy. This is an upgrade. I had one that was a little lesser grade than this, and I picked this one up a few years back from Harley Yee, well-known dealer and probably one of the most active dealers in the country. And he had a really nice copy of this at a comic book show, and I had to have it. So nice upgrade for me on that one.
I've always been really interested in the colors on this. It's just
it's different.
Right?
It's muted. It's the greens going into the brown with the octopus. I mean, really, really nice in hand. It is an unusual color scheme on that, and it contrasts with that 214 so well when you have the bright red and then the muted greens. I mean, together they look amazing.
Yeah. He definitely, if you look at issue after issue, they do not look anything alike, and he was not trying to use the last issue as any type of template for the next issue. It's just amazing how different he made, and this guy, this space pirate dude, he doesn't look like anyone else he's drawn yet.
No, I love that with the hair and the beard and everything. No helmet somehow in outer space.
He's a space pirate.
Yeah,
man.
that's right.
He's Johnny Depp in space. Fantastic.
So the last issue of the famous Funnies series that Frazetta did is 216, another great cover. This was the first issue of the series that I purchased years ago. I probably bought this book 25 years ago. And although it was the first issue that I bought, it's definitely not one of the easiest issues to get. There are some high-grade copies out there, but again, in really high grade, it doesn't come up for sale too often. I think Frazetta really enjoyed doing these covers because it looks like he put a lot of time into them.
Well, that's the whole run. You still got a book left there, Ken.
There is one book left, and this was supposed to be the last issue that he did for Famous Funnies. Like I said, the publisher thought it was too graphic, and so they didn't use it. But Frazetta had done some work for EC, and so Bill Gaines liked it and wanted to use it as the final issue of Weird Science Fantasy. So instead of Famous Funnies 217, it became Weird Science Fantasy 29. And this book right here, by a lot of people's standards, is considered the best comic book cover ever drawn.
Yeah.
I think it's right up there in the top 10. I mean, I really love this cover, and again, it has those unusual color scheme to it. It's not my favorite cover of all time. I still like Famous Funnies 213 and 214 a little bit more than this, but I really love this cover. I mean, if you like Frazetta, you have to own a copy of this book. This book is iconic.
Are these hard to get?
They're hard to get in nice shape. There are Gaines copies of these. They don't come up for sale as often as they used to, and they've gotten really expensive. I would not say they're hard to get. If you're okay with getting like mid to low grade, you can definitely find these, and that's at a more affordable price point, because when they start getting into the 9294 range, they've gotten really, really expensive.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite covers of all time. It just pulls you in, makes you feel like you're falling down that mountain with them, to me. Mm-hmm. And all of the Weird Science Fantasies with the rockets on the side, I mean...
I love that motif, too. That is great.
It's just, when it comes to science fiction from this era, this to me, it kind of set me up for what science fiction is and how it was set up through EC, which I really like. So,
yeah, EC definitely has some of the best science fiction and covers, artists, interiors of any publisher.
And what other Frank Frazetta run would you recommend people to take a peek at?
I don't know if there's runs of stuff that he did.
Okay.
He did a book called Thunda #1, which is the only book that Frank Frazetta did, the cover to cover, all the interior and the cover.
Yeah.
That's a good book if you like his artwork. As far as that, there's a few other ECs that he had work in. And then there's some other books that don't have Frazetta covers, like some personal loves that have stories that are amazing inside.
Right.
But because I'm primarily a cover person, I don't collect any of those. I have to really like the cover, even if the interior is amazing. if the cover doesn't grab me, I'm not interested in buying the book.
Right.
So, but if if that's not a factor for you, then Personal Love has some amazing Frazetta stories in it.
This is kind of an example of like seeing books that you may not be familiar with, and maybe they're out of your budget, or maybe it's not what you're interested in, but it still helps you kind of identify things you may like that you don't collect. Or
Yeah.
for me personally, there's not a book here that I wouldn't want to buy. But for me, it's I can see some books here that if I find them and they happen to come into my life, I don't know if I'd be able to sell them.
I do sell a lot of stuff. I mean, I buy and sell as well.
Okay. Yeah.
These would not be for sale unless I upgraded. That's like the core of my collection. If I had to sell all of my collection and only keep something, it would be this set right here. And it would have to be something else nice out of my collection.
So it's always some kind of painful endeavor.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for showing this to us, and I look forward to the next thing you show us. And if
good.
you
I
guys have
appreciate it.
any comments or questions about these books, please leave them in the comments. Thanks again for stopping by.
Thank
Bye
you.
now. That was awesome.